The Deceived Monk, The Perils of Being Good-Natured. This series of stories explores deep themes about honesty and dishonesty, trust and betrayal, and their consequences. In the story, main characters such as the monk Shakuwanan and the elder trust people based on superficial actions and appearances, and as a result, they are betrayed. The story shows that honest actions may not be immediately rewarded, but it ultimately emphasizes that honesty and sincerity are important values. Dishonest actions may bring temporary success, but in the end, they result in a loss of credibility and trust from others. Overall, this story reflects Buddhist teachings and values, emphasizing moral behavior, honesty, and carefulness in human relationships. It also highlights the complexity of human character and behavior, and conveys the importance of trying to understand things more deeply, not just on the surface. Once upon a time, when the Buddha was at Jetavana Monastery in the kingdom of Shravasti, preaching to a large gathering of people, there was a good-natured monk named Shakuwanan who, in his eagerness to expand his lineage, without looking at a person's character or considering their past, would shave off the beard and hair of anyone who simply said they wanted to become his disciple, without any discrimination, and give them the monk's precepts. Even though they were of the same lineage, he let them become monks so easily that,
"You must not do such rash things, trying to increase your own lineage just because anyone comes, without considering the future or investigating their background or asking where they came from. You give them the monk's precepts immediately just by observing them a little. But won't you regret it later?"
Despite the assembly unanimously advising against it, Shakuwanan still made anyone he saw his disciple. At that time, there was a vicious gambler. He had heard that in Shakuwanan's house, there were many robes, bowls, and utensils donated by believers, and that Shakuwanan indiscriminately sought to expand his lineage, and if one just went there, he would make them his disciple without asking about their background or origin. Just at that time, the man had lost every gamble, and his body was suffering from hunger and cold. So he decided to lie appropriately about anything he was asked, become a disciple, and stave off hunger for a while, so he visited Shakuwanan. Because he had planned it beforehand, he was quiet in walking and sitting, and he reverently bowed to his master with not the slightest roughness seen in his demeanor. Because of this, the master completely trusted him and said to him,
"If you become a monk, you will be at peace and free from worry. But if you give rise to feelings of lust and laziness, not only will you not attain enlightenment, but you will have to suffer countless pains."
The gambling man thought this was impossible and inadvertently spoke his true feelings.
"I have no intention of becoming a monk if it means giving up lust. I like money and women. I can't lie about that."
Even when told this, Shakuwanan encouraged him to become his disciple.
"Why don't you become a monk? Monks have many benefits. If you just stay still and become a monk, I will strive to equip you with all learning and virtue."
"If that's the case, please make me your disciple."
So he shaved off his beard and hair, was given the monk's precepts, and became a disciple. After that, he obediently received teachings, followed orders well, and was never lazy, so the master completely trusted him. One time, Shakuwanan, without doubting him in the least, entrusted him with all the robes and all the utensils and went out. However, he, thinking this was a golden opportunity, bundled up all the valuables and fled from the house, returning to his old haunts and drinking and eating with his companions. When the master, who had heard that the new disciple was gone, returned from outside and looked in the room, everything had already been stolen.
See that? It's not that we didn't tell you. You're rash and make disciples by recklessly shaving their hair. That's why this happened. He originally came to your place to steal. He never intended to become a monk from the beginning. By now, he's probably gone home and is gambling and drinking with the other guys. It's no use making a fuss now, so just bear with it.
Even when the assembly said this, Shakawanan couldn't say anything more at this point. The Buddha, having heard about this at the time, explained the true nature of the two men as follows. Long ago in the city of Rajagriha, there was a clever man. As he frequented houses of ill repute and grew intimate with a prostitute, he spent all his wealth on her. When he ran out of money, the prostitute started to dislike him and wouldn't let him near her.
Go somewhere, become rich, and then come back. Quickly earn money to offer to me. When you do, I'll see you then.
These were her last words. He left the city of Rajagriha and entered the country of Uttam. But he had no acquaintances and was at a loss. At that time, there was a great elder in this country. He visited the elder and said plausibly,
I am a merchant. I came from a certain country leading a large group. But on the way, we met bandits, and all the many valuables I brought were stolen, and I barely managed to make it here with just my life. However, now I'm struggling to make a living, and I thought I had no choice but to rely on you, Elder. Please keep me by your side and use me.
His demeanor was in accordance with the rules, and in going and walking, advancing and stopping, there was no crudeness. Seeing this, the elder thought, this is an excellent person, and decided to help him. Because he was originally intelligent and gifted in eloquence, he was adept at everything he did. All his actions were sensible, and he worked well. His conduct was pure, his words were kind, and there was no one who did not praise him. Therefore, the elder's trust gradually increased, and he was cherished like a brother, and he was even entrusted with all the finances. His goal was achieved. He secretly took out the entrusted property and hid it, and eventually loaded a carriage full of treasures and fine goods, and quietly left the country, returning to the city of Rajagriha and going to the house of the former prostitute to indulge in pleasure. At the elder's house, when he was not seen, they searched in all directions. But when his whereabouts were unknown, they thought maybe and checked inside the storehouse. And the many treasures were gone. So they sent people even further away to search for him, but his whereabouts were completely unknown. Then after some time, they heard through the grapevine that he had fled back to the city of Rajagriha and was frolicking with the prostitute. The elder realized that he was neither a merchant nor a wise man, but just a swindler, and he stamped his feet in frustration, but it was too late to catch up with him now.
This elder is the present Shakawanan, and the man who deceived the elder is the present gambler.
Thus the Buddha explained. The sincere ones are hardly rewarded, while the insincere ones behave cleverly and are immediately promoted by their superiors. However, their true colors soon appear. Yet once the superior has believed in them, they hardly doubt that person. And instead, they often distance the man who reported the other's insincerity. This is a miraculous story that warns to be wary of smooth-talking, clever men. This story gives us particularly important lessons as follows. First is the importance of not being misled by appearance or initial impressions. In the story, the gambler deceives others through his behavior as a monk or merchant. This shows the danger of people making judgments based on superficial actions or appearances. When evaluating people, we need to understand not only their appearance or first impression, but also the consistency of their actions and their true character. Second is the risk invited by excessive trust or optimistic estimations. The monk who becomes the master and the elder, in their respective situations, show excessive trust in the swindler and are ultimately betrayed. This teaches that blind trust or insufficient screening can invite risks. We need to maintain caution in the process of building trust and make appropriate judgments. Third is that good people are not necessarily rewarded. The monk and elder in the story are good-natured, kind-hearted people. However, because they believed the swindler, they end up losing their property. In the end, the cruel conclusion of good people suffering losses and swindlers profiting is common in modern society as well. This is a lesson we don't want to believe but should take to heart. Fourth is the value of honesty and its reward. The story shows, as mentioned before, that honest actions may not be rewarded. But that doesn't mean we should make light of the value of honesty and sincerity. Dishonest actions may bring temporary success, but in the end, they result in a loss of credibility and trust from others. The story doesn't depict the long-term retribution of the swindlers, but surely the karmic retribution befitting their evil deeds will come. Fifth is moral judgment and the complexity of human nature. The story highlights the complexity of human nature and the difficulty of moral judgment. People often cannot be categorized as simply good or evil, and it is important to understand the situation, background, and individual personality. Overall, this story teaches us to engage with people with deep insight without being misled by superficial evaluations, and the importance of valuing honesty and sincerity. It also warns against the potential risks brought by self-centered and short-sighted actions.